We're going to almost finish the grade 8 science curriculum today. Congratulations, you are so close. Hang in there. There are a couple of definitions today you need to know, a couple of general ideas. How are oceans and land shaped over time? This is what we're going to look at. You think this type of water formation might change the shape of land it covers? Well, of course. Glaciers are large moving bodies of ice. They can cover large areas of land, such as North America, or in some case, they make up the entire continent, like Antarctica. We're still seeing the leftovers of the last ice age, which ended about 15,000 years ago, back when Mrs. Maisie was just young. Began 110,000 years ago, back when probably Mr. James was just a young child. Movement of frozen water across the land can form and carve new formations over a long period of time. What we're going to look at next is 5 different landforms that glaciers can leave behind. You should know these and their definitions. 1, moraines. Moraines form from rocks and gravel that build up along the sides and end of the glacier. So sort of when the glacier moves across the land like a bulldozer, it leaves this gravel scraped up on the edge as that prehistoric bulldozer moves through the land. That's a moraine. An esker is kind of cool. It's got this, well, let's call it a glacier turd, because that's really what it is. Eskers form when tunnels below the glaciers collect sand and gravel and deposit material as they melt. Drumlins. Anytime you see a teardrop shape, that's a clue that it's a drumlin we're talking about. And kettle lakes are small lakes formed when chunks of ice left behind melt. Now, there may have been a giant glacier sitting on this section of land right here that just with its sheer mass caused a depression in the earth, caused pressure that created a divot. Now, that's not to say that this is still the water that's left behind by that glacier 10,000 years ago. That's not necessarily true. But the depression in the earth from the pressure of the glacier sitting there on that land, well, it's going to fill with water because water runs to the lowest point. So the depressions may have been left by glaciers, and now the water fills them up every time there's precipitation on land. And probably my favorite glacial landform is the glacial erratic. It's erratic means it makes no sense. A rock that doesn't seem to belong. It's left behind by glaciers. This giant glacier just outside of Okotoks. A tourist attraction. People will come to climb it because it's in the middle of a very flat prairie. It's in the middle of very flat land. It makes no sense. It doesn't belong there. You know, so it's either glaciers or aliens. And right now, well, long term, you can choose. But the textbook's going to say we're going with glaciers as an explanation. Glaciers are ancient rivers of compressed snow that creep through the landscape, shaping the planet's surface. This is key. They are the Earth's largest freshwater reservoir, collectively covering an area about the size of South America. And they are reservoirs that are refreshed every year. As the snow falls at the top of this glacier, it compresses, and the front of this glacier may push into the ocean or lake that it borders. But as it snows and rains, more precipitation refreshes that glacier on top. Now, in colder climates, it's going to build that glacier up over time because it's going to build more than it chips away at the bottom. We're in primarily a time where glaciers are receding. That means that we're losing more off the front than we're gaining on top. But even though we're losing glaciers, it's still important to remember that yes, they are reservoirs of fresh water for us, and they melt seasonally to keep our rivers flowing. That's where significantly our fresh water comes from in Canada. Glaciers have been retreating worldwide since about 1850, but have begun melting at rates that cannot be explained by historical trends. average global temperatures are expected to rise between this much and this much by the end of the 21st century. Now I'm going to stop the video there and try a second video where we will actually look at this video on screen. So that wraps up Glaciers section 1. Please head back to YouTube to find Glaciers section